Alright, hey guys, before we start, I just want to let you know that part 3 and part 4, we're just going to combine into one video. Street Fighter's coming out tonight, and I broke my foot, which put me a week back. So originally, part 4 was supposed to come out right before Street Fighter, but that's not the case. So we're just going to kind of end it here and combine those two videos into one. With that being said, let's kind of get on to this video. Alright, so we'll just kind of start off with what is an IB. An IB, or an instant block, is when you block within a 2-frame window of when the opponent's attack connects, and this changes the pushback value. So if you IB the move, their move is not going to have like little or any pushback, and if you IBFD it, it's going to have a ton of pushback. This is kind of why I call it like our traditional push block. So if I have the Kai, just do throw 5k, 5k, you can see my throw will whiff, but I can do something like an IB afterwards. And as you can see, if I IB it, I can get that throw, and then same thing, if I IBFD, so we'll see that he goes really, really far away, more than if I just did a normal FD. So IBFD, think of it as push block, you get them really far away from you. IB is you keep them nice and close. Alright, so why would we want to keep the opponent close to us? For a few reasons. One, Guilty Gear Strive is based off negative frames, so slash, heavy slash special moves generally have a large amount of negative frames, anywhere from like 5 to 15, which every character has a 5-frame button, and a lot of characters have 4-frame buttons. So just the idea of IBing Kai's 6H for this example, I can now get a punish on him. Like, while it might not be the realistic, most realistic example, I can punish him if I got it and start my offense, right? I can just 5P to punish it, 2K, 2D to punish it, and I'm running my offense all because I IB'd one button and he decided not to go into a special move. Now, that point, if he gets scared and he has to start going into special moves, so you know he's going to punish, or he knows that you're going to punish, he's going to start frame trapping with specials, which are even more negative. And if I IB that Diary Clat, for example, May will get a close slash punish, which is a huge combo, and we're going to the next round, right? So we're going to use IBs to make the opponent uncomfortable, go into moves they don't want to, leave gaps in their strings, force strike throw. It's used as the defender to give yourself a way to not run offense, but to give yourself openings and give yourself opportunities to get back on offense. Alright, now for IBFDs. So I just said a bunch of awesome things about IBs. You're always like, yeah, I would want to keep them close, right? I want to get these giant punishes all the time. Yeah, when you can. That's not always applicable. Some characters actually, like think about like Axel. Sometimes he might just want to IBFD to get the opponent away from him, because his mash options, or yeah, just options on defense in general, might not be the strongest. Another way would be to move the opponent backwards. So if we're just going to kind of set this to IBFD, and as I said before in our last video about Faultless Defense, is that it pushes people back, right? Pushes both you and the opponent back. Now watch what happens when I have the Kai do it. Mei stood still, right? She didn't move. And Kai moved incredibly far away, right? So it adds all that pushback just to the Kai, and it's even more than on an FD. So if you're really going for push block, you just want to kind of use IB, FD for that. Now, you might be thinking like, wow, that's a lot of pushback. I can use that to stop strike throw, and you'd be exactly right. So if we put him in the corner, nobody really wants to take strike throw off like a close slash. And we'll actually go to Nago for this example. Okay, now that we're on Nago, I'm going to kind of show you another way to use IBFD, and this is about avoiding the strike throw. So in a lot of cases, we know that taking a bite is it can be game deciding for a lot of characters. It's very dangerous, it's very bad to get bit. One way to stop that is to simply say he does 2D and does a close slash. Now that strike throw is no longer there, right? Because I IBFD. This is way too much space to cover. So now that we know when or why we want to use it, we should go into when we want to use it. This is just another way of controlling the opponent on defense. So IBs, if you ever want them really close, you want to force openings, make them very uncomfortable, make them scared to go into the slash heavy slash buttons, or to force strike throw. Like we saw in the Kai, when you block a 6H, he has to do something or he'll get tossed, right? Like he might get thrown if he does it too close. You're guaranteed a punish if he doesn't go into a special move. And if he does go into that special move and you get an IB on that as well, like he dies. So it's very, a opponent who's very good at IBFDing, or IBing, it can be very hard to run offense on them because their defense just shoots up dramatically. Their defense, them blocking, allows them to run offense. They don't have to play neutral. They don't have to worry about anything. They just do a few IBs, and now while you're running your offense, you're like, oh no, I make it thrown, put in the corner, and that's game, right? So IBs are very strong. Very good way, very safe way to give you opportunities to turn the tides for very low commitment, very low risk. Now for IBFDs, if I ever just want the opponent away from me, like I don't want to take the strike throw at all, the strike throw is very scary, you just IBFD. Get him away from me, and then we just play neutral again, right? Or we go back to return to neutral. I might be in the corner, but it's still like a way safer spot. Being here is so much scarier than being like back here. Being at like this distance as the Mei player, right? Like I'd rather be here than having the Nago here. So just IBFD to get them away when you don't want to play deal against that strike throw, or when you need to move them to the corner. Like we said, it doesn't push you back, and it pushes them back a ton. So now with RPS and interaction points, so RPS just means rock, paper, scissors, and it's kind of like a blanket term for interacting with the opponent. Alright, hey guys, what's up? It's Ed Included here. I kind of realized that I didn't actually explain what RPS meant in terms of fighting games, that it was a blanket term for interacting with the opponent. So I'm going to go ahead and explain this real quick. So we have three main options still. Instead of rock, paper, scissors, we now have moving, or movement, then defending our space, and blocking. So the first one is movement, right? So you can either move forward, move back. You're moving in some way because you think they're going to do something, or you're trying to get them to do something, right? You're just moving. Next one is defending our space, so it's maybe hitting a button, doing something active, usually a little bit higher risk to defend our space that we have. And the third one is just blocking. So you can hold down back, you can hold back, you're just blocking. Those are like your three options that you're always going to have access to at all times. Sometimes one option might be better than the other, but you're always going to have access to these three options. Now, once we cut back, you'll hear me say interacting a lot. Whenever you hear that, just think about how these three options change based on my relation to the opponent, like where I am and the situation. But yeah. So think about it this way. Anytime I'm right here, the interactions are different than if I'm back here. And the interactions from me hitting 5P are different from if I hit 5K, right? Every time anything happens, whether you move or hit a button, the interactions change between you and your opponent. So in a game like Guilty Gear Strive, it's very important to not only understand where your character is the strongest, but also understanding where the opponent is the strongest and the weakest. Why? Because I know back here, if I'm back here, like I can kind of like swing with very low risk, but my reward is terrible. I might get a on counter hit, I can get /dolphin, but if I like dash with a /, I might not even get the dolphin, right? So knowing while the Nago might get crazy reward if he's at low blood, he might hit like /Beyblade, do whatever, he gets a huge combo, right? Now with that in mind, what I would do is then I would start dashing forward. I would want to play it here because now I can get good counter hit. I can get good counter hit 5Ks. I can get good counter hit 2Ks. I can even something like a 2S gives me a giant combo like that, and my reward is way higher. Now the Nago has to think, be very scared, much more scared than if I was all the way back here. Right, so that's just kind of understanding your character, understanding where you want to hit buttons, how you want to hit buttons, and like kind of where you want to be. Okay, and now we're on to the defense portion of when to IB and IBFD. Before we covered in the last video, I said we can use FD to kind of put them at a range that you want them. So for like Mei, I kind of want them right here, so I can do like 5K, 2K, I can even like mash out with Dolphin even. But now we can add other things. So if they're doing things to kind of beat the FD, you have your IBs to force even better situations, right? To get those punishes when necessary, to maybe even get throws, throw them into the corner. Just puts a lot of pressure on them, makes them do strings that they don't want to do. The more you IB, the more you'll have openings for other things, right? Other ways to get out. Same could be said with IBFD. The most basic way to IBFD is just to IBFD on your meetings, or on your wake up. So say he does TZ and then he does close slash on my wake up. Everybody's wake up animation is different. However, they're the same every time you wake up. Outside of like you having two different types of wake up animations, you have a front wake up and a on your back wake up. But each characters are going to be the same. They're not going to change every time you wake up. So what you can do is you can learn your wake up animation and learn when to tap block to get your IB, so it lines up with your wake up animation. This is easiest way to do it. This is what I recommend. It's a very beginner friendly way of getting into IBs and IBFDs. But with that being said, I hope this series helped you out. I put a lot of time into it, and I've had a lot of kind words said, and I hope to see you all in Street Fighter 6.